So here's what I want to start off by asking you. What is it that you need to break through? Yeah. What is it that's standing between you and your goals and your dreams and that thing that you've been wanting to do, that you've been meaning to do? What is it that you've been struggling to push towards? Or what is it that's keeping you from getting there? And so what I find is that most of us have something that is standing in between us and our goals and our dreams. We have something that is standing in between us and that happy relationship that we want. We have something that is standing between us and what we want to accomplish financially, in our relationships, or in our personal lives. There's something that we need to break through. And I personally believe that happiness, I personally believe that financial fulfillment, I personally believe that taking your life to the next level, it lies just on the other side of whatever it is that you need to break through. But here's what I also know, that most of us, that the thing that we need to break through is tied in one way or another to some form of fear. And so for some of you who are listening to me right now, maybe perhaps there's a fear of rejection. There's something that you want to do, but you're fearful that you might be rejected. You're fearful that somebody might actually say no, that we don't want to hire you, no. That I don't want to be in a relationship with you. No, I don't want to marry you. No, I don't want to give you this loan to start your business. That there's some kind of fear of rejection. And because of that, that's been keeping you from breaking through. Maybe some of you who are listening to me right now, that there's a fear of failure. That you have these goals, you have these dreams, and there's some things that you want to do, but you haven't attempted to do it because you're afraid that you're going to fail. You're afraid that it's not going to work out. And so you've continued to hold on to this job in which maybe perhaps you're feeling unfulfilled, or you're continuing to play it small in your business when you know that you can take it to the next level, or maybe perhaps that you've been fearful of getting into another fulfilling relationship because for some reason your past relationships had failed, and you don't want to experience that pain again. And so there's some fear there, and the fear for you is this fear of failure. And for some of you, as crazy as this sounds, that maybe perhaps this thing that you need to break through, this thing that's holding you back, is maybe even the fear of success. And somebody says, is there such thing? Yes, absolutely. There's the fear of success. The fear of the responsibility that I'm going to have to deal with if I have this level of success. The things, the way that I'm going to have to show up, the responsibility, the platform, the way that people are going to perceive me, and the higher standard that I'm going to be held to. And so the question is, what is it that you need to break through? What is it that you need to face right now that's going to allow you to push through, allow you to take yourself to the next level? And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I tell you, last Thursday, was a really special day. I had a brand new client, and I had been preparing for this training that I was going to do for my client and their board members. And I did this amazing training. I was so happy. It was a big success. The client was so excited and so happy. New client, always great when you start off on a high note with a new client and you have succeeded at meeting their expectations and maybe even perhaps exceeded their expectations. And so also last Thursday, I had actually spoke to one of my friends coming off of my birthday weekend. I spoke to one of my friends. He was having an event up in Tampa, Florida, and he said, Andy, listen, man, you got to come to the event, man. I got to have you there, man. I've been planning and preparing for this thing. I need you to come through, man. You're going to love this experience. It's just going to be a great thing. And I consider this gentleman a very good friend. And so I said, man, I'm going to make sure that I come and support. And so as a matter of fact, when I did the last week's motivational call, I was actually on the road en route to my friend Delatora McNeil, who was putting together a very phenomenal conference called the Full Throttle Conference. And so I was so happy. I got on the road, made that trip up there, and I tell you, Del is really into creating an experience for the people who are there. And so one of the evenings that was part of the event, one of the things that he did is he brought in another one of his friends who actually creates an amazing experience with all the attendees. And so what we were asked to do, for those who were brave enough, for those who were willing to sort of step forward, we had an opportunity to go through a board breaking exercise. That's right. I'm talking about a wood board. I'm talking about the type that if you potentially punch wrong, you could break your wrist. I'm talking about the type that if you punch, you would perhaps not have a very good day. A real piece of wood, a square piece of wood, hard and firm. We're not talking about a little flimsy piece of wood here. We're talking about a solid piece of wood. And so this whole experience, this whole exercise that we're going through was that this board was representing whatever it is that's holding you away from a breakthrough. This board represented whatever it is that perhaps is keeping the seminar attendees, that's keeping individuals to getting to the next level. And so I don't know what that board is for you. And I want you to think about what that thing is for you. What is it for you that you have to break through? What is it that you need to face that's going to allow you to push to the next level? Now, I've been blessed and fortunate enough because I've been to so many personal development events that I've actually participated in board breaking exercises several times before, but it's always a great experience when you get around people and seeing people that it's their very first time and seeing the reaction. And here's what I could tell you. Here's what happens when people are about to face a potential breakthrough. And I want you to think about what category are you potentially in. There's always going to be the group of people in the room who, when they found out we were doing this exercise and we went through and we identified what was it that we had to break through. And I want you to think about what that thing is for you. Did you have to break through the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, maybe perhaps the fear of success, or maybe something that happened to you in the past, or something that really hurt you, something that was a horrible experience that somehow you're projecting forward. And so you've got to learn to let that thing go, and you've got to learn to break through. Whatever that thing is for you, when people are about to face a breakthrough, here's what tends to happen. You're going to have one group of people who are eager, and so they're ready, and they want to be the first ones to go. They're ready to step up. They want to grab the board. They want to put the board on those 2 brick plates, and they want to be the first one to go at it, because they know that they've got to get to the other side of whatever's on the board. They've got to get to the other side, and they've got to break through. And that's the way they live their lives. They live their lives going and attacking the breakthrough and finding a way to sort of break right through it. And so there's another group of individuals that are in the same room, and I want you to think about what category you're in. There's the other group of individuals that when they have something that they've got to face, something that they've got to break through, what they do is, in that moment, they find a reason to not show up. They find a reason to start counting themselves out. So you see, there's some people when the exercises like that is going to take place, and they find out that we're going to break through the board. As one of the ladies mentioned, and this was her second year attending the event, she said the previous year when she found out they were going to be breaking boards, she went up to her hotel room and she didn't come out. And so what happens is with some of us, when we're facing something that we've got to break through, some of us will find a reason to check out. Some of us will find a reason not to show up. Some of us will find a reason to not break through. Something will happen that we'll find a reason as to why we shouldn't push forward. And unfortunately, when we do that, all we do is we delay the inevitable. All we do is we delay our goals and our dreams. We delay the business. We delay the career change. We delay ourselves getting out of debt. We delay doing that thing that we know that we've been wanting to do and that we've been meaning to do. And so you have that person that goes right head on and says, give me the breakthrough. I'll break that board right now. And so that person, I like to call, that's ignorance on fire. They don't even want to know how you do it. They're just ready to start chipping away at the board. And then you've got the second individual who, now that they realize that they've got to face a breakthrough, they've got to face something that's been difficult, they find a reason to sort of not show up. They find a reason to go missing. They start coming up with excuses. I don't want to get hurt. I don't think this is going to work out. Well, this is silly. I don't want to do this. And so they come up with excuses. And then you've got the third person. And that's the person that maybe perhaps they have some fear. And let me tell you, there are some people in the room that were terrified. There's some people in the room that every single part of them wanted to leave. Every single part of them wanted to check out, but yet and still they found a way to stay in the room. Yet and still they grabbed their board. Yet and still they wrote down those things that they needed to break through. And yet and still, maybe perhaps they weren't willing to go first, and maybe perhaps they weren't even willing to go second, and they weren't even willing to go third, but they decided to just stay in there. And they decided that, you know what, I may have to build up my confidence. I may have to push this fear to the side. I may have to dig deep, but I tell you one thing, I'm not running from this. Eventually, I'm going to break through that board. And those are the individuals that I love to watch, because you see this battle that's taking place on the inside. You can see it coming out. That there's a part of them that wants to break through, but yet there's another part of them that's absolutely terrified. But the most important thing is they're willing to take a stand. And the most important thing is they're willing to act. And most importantly, guess what? Every single person who was in the room, every single person who stood their ground, every single person who didn't make an excuse to not show up, who didn't make an excuse to leave the room, every single person broke through the board. And so what does that teaches us? What it teaches us that all of us have the capacity to break through. And so maybe perhaps you didn't know that. Maybe perhaps you convince yourself otherwise. That you've somehow convinced yourself that you're not going to be able to break through and do this thing that you've been wanting to do and that you've been meaning to do. You don't think that you can break through these circumstances that you're dealing with right now. You don't think that you could break through these problems. You don't think that you can break through and get away from your past. And so maybe someone failed to tell you that you have the capacity at any moment to make a decision. And yes, maybe perhaps that in the midst of making a decision that you may experience some fear and you may experience some doubt. But if you're willing to just stick in there, if you're willing to dig deep, that you have the capacity to break through. And so here's what I realize. That many of us, that when there's something that we need to break through, that we find ourselves walking away. And so what we do is we make excuses and we begin to walk in the opposite direction of our goals and our dreams. We walk in the opposite direction of that very thing that has our name on it. We walk in the opposite direction of the calling that we have upon our lives. We walk in the opposite direction of happiness, the opposite direction of financial fulfillment, the opposite direction of good health. We walk in the opposite direction of that thing that has our name on it. That thing that is sitting on the other side of the board. The thing that is sitting on the other side of the wall. The thing that's sitting on the other side of that thing that we need to break through. But here's what I realized. You see, you can only walk so far. You know, it was just probably about a month or two ago, me and my fiance, we went to this Thai restaurant. I love Thai food. We were in this Thai restaurant. We had just finished eating, and when we walked out of the Thai restaurant, and we're in this very large shopping plaza, we walked out of the Thai restaurant, and we said, you know what, we actually need to make a stop and go grab a couple things from Publix. And so we said, you know, it's pretty ridiculous for us to get in the car and drive to the other end of the shopping center. We just finished eating. We might as well get the exercise. So we went ahead and we walked over to the Publix supermarket, which is a supermarket chain that we have down here. We went grocery shopping. And after we went grocery shopping, we put everything in the shopping cart. And of course, I started pushing the shopping cart towards my car. And so now we're walking, and clearly, I mean, the distance between the supermarket and my car was quite some distance, because the supermarket was on one side of the shopping plaza and my car was parked on the completely other side. And so I'm pushing the shopping cart, and we're talking casually, and we're headed to the car, and we're just having conversation. And then all of a sudden, I feel like the shopping cart just went from, like, I don't know what a shopping cart weighs, maybe about, you know, when you're pushing it, it doesn't feel like much. But all of a sudden, the shopping cart felt like a ton of bricks. And I was like, wait a second here, did I hit something? And so I'm pushing the shopping cart. I mean, this thing is locked up. I go from the front, I start dragging it, and then it dawned on me what happened. And so I knew that a lot of these shopping carts right now, they have sensors on them. And the reason why the sensors are placed there is because if somebody tries to take the shopping cart too far away, because many of these supermarkets have so many shopping carts that disappear, and so somebody was clever enough to create a concoction, a gadget, that if you take the shopping cart far away from the supermarket, all of a sudden it will lock up on you. All of a sudden it won't have the ability to move. And so here's what I need you to understand. That when it comes to you walking away from your destiny, when it comes to you walking away from that thing that you have been called to do, when it comes to you walking away from that thing that you need to break through, you need you to understand this, that you can only walk so far. You can only take so many steps. You can only wait so many weeks. You can only wait so many months, so many years. And at some point, life will begin to lock up on you. And then you'll begin to feel stuck. And you'll be asking yourself, what is happening here? And I can tell you what's happening. What's happening is you've walked too far away from your goals and your dreams. You've walked too far away from your destiny. You've walked too far away from this thing that has your name on it. You've walked too far away from this calling that you have on your life. You've walked too far away from this diploma that you wanted to pursue. You've walked too far away from this new business that you want to start. You've walked too far away from this relationship that you've been avoiding. You've walked too far away, and so what happens is life begins to lock up. Yeah. You start feeling like you're stuck. And so I can tell you this, that I wasn't going to be able to just pull that shopping cart in the opposite direction. Same way you can't keep pulling yourself in the opposite direction of your goals and your dreams. You can't keep pulling yourself in the opposite direction, trying to avoid this thing that you need to break through. You see, in order for me to get this shopping cart to go back to the point in which it was flowing again, in order for me to get the shopping cart to do what it was intended to do, its intended use, I had to turn the shopping cart around and start pushing it back to its source. I had to start pushing it back to where it belonged. And so if you right now are perhaps feeling stuck in your life, and maybe perhaps you know in your heart that you've been walking away from your source, you've been walking away from your goals and your dreams, you've been walking away from that thing that you know that you've been called to do, that what you've got to do is stop pulling, stop spinning your wheels, stop exerting unnecessary energy, turn around and start walking towards this thing that you know is calling your name, and understand that yes, there will be some things between where you are right now and where it is that you're looking to go, and understand this, that you will have to break through them. And what I need you to understand is that some moments you've got to make the decision in your mind. I'm not going to break down. I am going to break through. Yeah. This is your time to break through. You've got to break through and start making some things happen. And so if you're a note taker, I want you to write this down, because I need you to put a little thought to this. Number one, I need you to spend a little time by yourself and just think for a moment, what is it that you need to break through in your life? What is it that's keeping you from going to the next level? What is it that's keeping you playing small? What is it that's keeping you unfulfilled? What is it that's keeping you from starting the business? What is it that's keeping you from doing that thing that you know that you've been wanting to do and that you've been meaning to do? What is this thing, or what is it that you have to break through? Identify what that thing is. And see, once you've identified what that thing is, you got to realize this, that it's going to cost you something. And so now that you know what it is that you've got to break through, I need you to identify what's the cost that you're going to have to pay in order to break through. Because trust and believe, it will cost you something. And so it may mean that you're going to have to get uncomfortable. It may mean that you have to go and sit in a classroom with kids that are about half your age. It may mean that you have to be vulnerable and be willing to enter another relationship again, even after your heart was broken in 1,000 pieces. It may mean that you may have to let go of this job that appears to be some security in order to pursue this business opportunity that you really want to do. It may just mean that you have to step up and assume this new leadership position within your company or whatever company you're working for right now. And it may mean you have to get uncomfortable to be able to get to this next level. What is this thing that you've got to break through? But what is the cost that you've got to pay? Because it's going to cost you something. And I could tell you this, and I believe it was T.D. Jakes that said this, that I could tell you right now that there are no shortcuts and there's no layaway when it comes to success. No, you've got to pay it in full. That there's no discount for success. That you're not going to wait for it to go on sale. You're not going to wait for them to take 10, 20, 30% off, 50% off. It's not going to happen. You've got to be willing to pay the full price. Don't even ask for a discount. And so you've got to be willing to pay the cost. But here's the other thing I want you to consider. What will it cost you to not break through it? Yeah. You see, if you're going to think about what it's going to cost you to break through, I need you to also consider what is it going to cost you to keep avoiding it? Well, what kind of opportunities are you going to miss out on? What kind of fulfillment are you going to miss out on? What kind of relationship could you be missing out on? What kind of health could you be missing out on? What kind of happiness could you be missing out on? What is it that you'll be missing out on? What is it going to cost you if you don't break through? And so once you've realized that the cost of you not breaking through is much heavier than the cost of you breaking through. And so that's why I love Jim Rohn, who's one of the greatest thought leaders. Jim Rohn, this guy has been so influential. Jim Rohn that I used to sit in my car and listen to for hours at a time and be able to finish every single word and know all his quotes because I was listening to him so much. Jim Rohn said that we must all suffer from one of two pains in life, and that is the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. He said, but the difference is discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. And so the question is, what will it cost you? What will be the weight of the cost if you don't break through? And finally, act on your goals and your dreams. If you don't break through and decide to give a new relationship a chance, if you don't break through and do whatever you've got to do to be able to save your marriage, if you don't break through and do what's necessary to lose the weight, to be able to get out of debt, if you don't break through, what will it cost you? What will it cost you? And then finally, there's only one thing left to do. You see, when we're in the room, what I love is, regardless of what category someone fell in, whether they're one of the individuals that were just ready, come on, give me my board right now. I want to be first. I want to go first. Let me go. Or if it's the person that says, oh no, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go back to my room. I don't want to get hurt, and they find a reason to sort of to excuse themselves. Or if it's the person that had the fear, that wanted to leave, but just managed to stay in the room to fight through the fear, that understood what Joyce Meyer said when she says, do it afraid. And the individual that understood that hey, if somebody else can do this, I can do this. I can't go first. But as soon as I see one or two people have a breakthrough, I'm going to build up some courage to face my breakthrough. That regardless of what category anybody faced in, at the end of the day, there was only one thing left to do, and that was to break through. That's right. You just had to take action and break through. And so some people broke the board with their feet. Some people broke the board with their hand, standing from a stand-up position. And some people decided to do the more sophisticated soft break technique from kneeling down. But regardless of what they chose to do, they broke through. And so the question is, what is it that you need to break through? What is it that if you would just build up the courage to break through it, that you'd be that much closer to your goals and your dreams, that you'd be that much closer to the business, that you'd be that much closer to this thing that you want? And so what I'm inviting you to do right after you listen to this message is to break through. Yeah. Breakthrough. You can do this. Breakthrough. This has been Andy Henriquez reminding you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, no one else will.